Let's start today with a discussion about the economy. Specifically, we're looking at the tension between what the White House wants and what the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says he is going to do. It's about economics, yes, but it's also about intimidation. It's also about fear and authoritarianism, as is just about everything with this administration. So we're going to first look at what Jerome Powell said yesterday, and then we will see the reaction from the White House. And I think it's important to mention, it might seem to you as though this is not an issue that affects you directly. Trump versus Powell on the federal funds rate. How on earth does this affect me? But the truth is that it affects all of us significantly. And we're going to talk about that in a moment when I get into what are the parameters for when the federal funds rate should go up or down. This is the rate at which banks can borrow money from the federal government. Let's get to that in a moment. But we're going to start with really some very direct comments from Jerome Powell. He's usually sort of like a quiet technician in the back room. He has walked out front. He looked directly into the cameras yesterday, and he said really what everybody on Wall Street's been whispering since Trump ignited this tariff war, which is we are seeing signs that the economy is slowing down, and it is Donald Trump who is to blame. It's certainly not China. It's certainly not Democrats. It's not the Fed. It's not immigrants. It's not the alignment of the moon and the stars, or whether Mercury has gone into retrograde or whatever they like to say. It is Trump's decisions that are starting to slow the economy. Powell didn't do sort of sanitized bureaucratic nonsense. He said it's the tariffs. They're going to raise prices. Trump's economic instincts are not better than reality. And this fantasy from Trump about how great the tariffs are going to be was lit on fire by Jerome Powell. Take a listen.
At this meeting. So, and those things are probably slow moving. So I think if you look at what's happening here since March, this is since March, right? You see a little slower growth, just a tiny tick up, a 1/10 tick up in unemployment, and you see inflation moving up 0.3. And by the way, it was a similar move from the December SEP to the March. So that's what you see. You see the effects of tariffs. I think we learned in April after the March meeting that substantially higher tariffs were likely. And then since then, the estimates of where the tariffs will be have actually moved back down, although still at an elevated level. So we're adapting in real time. And what you see is an accumulation of individual assessments.
There's really two things here, right? Number one, blanket tariffs on every country, on every industry in every country, that are sometimes on, sometimes off, sometimes starting at midnight tonight, or sometimes pushed back for 90 days. It's not good economic policy. But in addition to that, the on-again, off-again nature of it creates an even more difficult decision for the Fed to say what's really happening here and what should we actually do. So just what Powell has already said in those 45 seconds, it's a bad headline for Trump. And it's the Fed chair saying Trump's fingerprints are on the weapon. And now we have to see, has he killed anybody with it? Now, the truth, of course, is Trump chose to start the economic war. He wanted tariffs. He bragged about tariffs. He put them on everything like a toddler spraying ketchup on everything, right? And now that we're seeing, these are small moves. We're taking the Fed's word that there's a trend starting, but these are admittedly small moves around the 20th, 21st of the month. We always look at it. A little bit of an uptick here, a little bit of an uptick there. And Powell says this is because of Trump. Now, Powell was not done. He also went on to explain about Trump lobbing insults at him. You know, he's talking about firing him, or can he appoint himself? Trump said he's not a smart guy. Powell simply said his insults do not make a difference. We will not be bullied here.
Your friend down at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue continues to lob insults in your direction. And I'm wondering, given now that the Supreme Court has maybe carved out the Fed from some of the legal implications of that, whether this is just noise that the markets and everybody should ignore until your term is up, or whether you worry that it could lead to more pressure on confidence on Wall Street, on consumers, about the outlook for the economy.
Okay. from my standpoint, it's not complicated. What everyone on the FOMC wants is a good, solid American economy with strong labor market and price stability. That's what we want. We think our policy is well positioned right now to deliver that and to be able to respond in a timely way as the data lead us around. The economy's been resilient, and part of that is our stance. And again, we think we're in a good place on that to respond to significant economic developments. That's what matters. That is what matters to us. Pretty much that's all that matters to us.
I need to ask, assuming you are not reappointed, would you stay on as governor when your term as chair ends?
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking.
All right, that's getting ahead of himself. So here's where history matters. It's not new that presidents try to pressure the Fed. Nixon leaned hard in the 70s on the Fed. We got stagflation. There are examples of presidents wanting the Fed to take a certain action. But what Trump is doing right now is more than just pressure. It's really harassment. It's publicly ridiculing the Fed chair. And Powell lived through some of Trump's prior tantrums already. He's kind of shrugging it off. I've seen this movie before. I know the ending. I don't need to get myself all worked up right here. Now, if you're wondering what happens next, Powell's message is clear. The Fed is going to cut rates if the data say so, not because Trump insults him, not because Trump tells him cut the rates, not because of administration pressure, and certainly not because Trump suddenly discovers economics after a lifetime of bankrupting casinos. And he's like, oh, it seems that these blanket tariffs I'm doing that are sometimes on, sometimes off are not quite so good for the economy. Now, let's look at Trump's reaction, and then we'll talk about what is the standard that the Fed uses when they decide what to do. Go Google your name right now, and you'll probably be shocked by how many sketchy websites have your address, phone number, even details about your family. Our sponsor, Incogni, is the solution. It is a service that will force data brokers and people search sites to delete your personal information so scammers, spammers, and snoops can't get their hand on it. It's also now part of their unlimited plan that you can do custom removals. You're no longer limited to just the 250 plus sites in their automated system. You can submit any link where your personal info is exposed, and Incogni's privacy experts will get it taken down, even if the site's not in their database, whether it is whitepages.com, trellis.law, DNB, or anybody else quietly publishing your information. Incogni will wipe the footprint clean. You paste the link and they do the rest. If you're tired of being tracked, profiled, targeted, this is how you push back. For instance, these sites are where scammers and spammers can get your information to then target you. Using Incogni can cut way down on the spam calls and the messages that you get. Try it risk-free for 30 days and get 60% off an annual plan when you go to incogni.com/Pacman. The link is in the description.